Welcome to the very first episode of Morning Manna with Big D. Just as God gave the Israelites sweet bread from heaven every morning and double on Friday, in my morning time with God, I feel like He gives me bread from heaven in the form of short lessons. So it looks like we'll be breaking bread together for the foreseeable future. Now, the bread may not be pretty all the time because I'm not going to do a whole lot of editing, but I'm going to try and keep my hands out of it as much as possible and just give it to you straight. Also, this is the only time I'm going to explain so much, unless, of course, the Lord moves me to expound. So our first meal today is called There's Always a Comma in the Kingdom. I'm glad you've joined me today. Let's go. There's always a comma in the kingdom. When we don't listen all the way to the end, we can miss the whole point. The disciples were good at missing the point sometimes. Matthew 17:22 through 23. When they came together in Galilee, He said to them, "The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill Him, and on the third day He will be raised to life." And the disciples were filled with grief. There's a disconnect between what Jesus said and what the disciples heard. What they heard was, "The Son of Man will be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill Him." But there's a comma. They were so focused on Jesus being delivered into the hands of men and being killed that they missed the best part. Jesus is going to rise from the dead. Wow. So how often do we do this as believers? We are there, we hear the word with our ears, we hear the whole sentence, but we key in on the negative, even when there's a positive present, and we are then filled with grief. This is a case of looking with our eyes of flesh instead of our eyes of faith. You see, flesh always sees at eye level, but faith goes way beyond the here and now and sees God's promises fulfilled in the spiritual realm. Why would they be filled with grief? Well, because they didn't listen closely to the great thing that Jesus said after that negative. They were so focused on the flesh they couldn't see past it, and they didn't pay attention to the comma. If you're landing on a negative, then you haven't heard the whole sentence. Watch for the comma. Listen for the rest of the story. The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men, period. And they will kill Him, comma. And on the third day He will be raised to life. Let's not be quick to grieve deeply. There's life on the other side of that comma. Plus, when things get bad, Romans 8:28 kicks in every time. We know that God causes all things to work together for good, for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Also, 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14 says, "But thanks be to God, who always leads us in His triumph in Christ, and manifests through us the sweet aroma of the knowledge of Him in every place." See, God will always lead us to triumph. There's always a comma in the kingdom, but we have to listen carefully. Otherwise, we'll get stuck on the bad stuff and grieve unnecessarily. You've been listening to Morning Manna with Big D. Have a beautiful day. Shalom.